Indian tabla player that's also been performing with many of the great jazz artists that we know, probably most notably Miles Davis, and he has a lot to tell us about the tabla drums and Indian music. And he brought a very great guitar player with him, Kenny West. Sorry, I should know that. But anyway, I give you Badal Roy.
All right, guys. I feel good now without this glass, you know. Okay, the reason I have this glass, you know, because of my eye condition. You know, I just lost one of my eyesight. Left eye is totally gone about a year and a half ago. So the right eye is also not that good, you know. I had glaucoma for the last 35 years. And a year and a half ago it just gave up. So that's the reason. So I'm not showing off, okay? That's all I want to tell you. I'm not showing off when I wear this glass, okay? So this drum called tabla comes from India, mostly from the northern part. And as you were seeing, if somebody wants to say, I want to sing in A, I tune this drum in A. I want to sing in B, I tune this drum in B. So this drum has to be tuned. Nobody plays a out-of-tune guitar or out-of-tune piano or out-of-tune horn. Do you guys play out-of-tune horn?
Sometimes.
You don't. So it has to be, you have to tune this drum. So that's why I have this hammer. And since 9/11, I have lost a lot of hammers. You know. I go on the road, security, by mistake, I have it with in my handbag. Hammer, no. They take it. So now I put it in my case. So I lost a lot of hammers. Nice, beautiful hammers I lost. So this drum has to be tuned. And bass drum should give you a good bass sound. This is also, you know. At this time it's not giving me the sound that I want, but still good. So Kenny, is this a good A now? Sort of? And this one? C. So I got A, B, C. So I have another drum, is D, that I mean I did bring it, but not for this gig. It's in my other suitcase. For this gig, ABC is pretty good, okay? So this drum has to be tuned. So I got A, B, and a C. But if somebody says I want to sing in G sharp or play in G sharp, I just bring half a note down. Or B flat, I bring it half a note up. So this drum has to be tuned, okay? So there you go. And we learn, I guess somebody knows tabla already. I saw doing this, you know.
I can't play. I just for fun. I just did that all through high school on my desk.
There you go.
Teachers hate me.
Yeah, after. So you learn the language of the drum. You learn the language of the right hand drum. You learn the language of the left hand drum, like A, B, C, D up to Z. You learn the language of the both hand together. You sing the sentence, then play the sentence. You know, these two drums, just like these two, they are very, very complicated drumming. Extremely. It's just like a violinist give a violin solo, violin for 2 hours. Tabla player, classical tabla player gives 2 hours tabla solo. People will go and listen to them 2 hours tabla solo. So this is that kind of an instrument. All right? So it is extremely complicated. And I've been playing it for last 40, 45, 50 years. You know something, those who classical players, I don't play classical anymore now. I used to like 30, 35 years ago. After playing with Miles and Ornette Coleman and all these guys and all that, I have become a different drummer, you know. I'm no more a really classical tabla drummer. I will not sit with a real classical sitar player and sit down and play because I don't practice that. Those classical lines, big classical lines. Big lines like this. These are all tabla lines. You have to practice all those lines for years and years and years to be really a classical tabla player. So I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. I mean, if I do with Miles Davis, he would say, "Get out of here! Get out! I don't need you in my gig." So it was totally different, you know. So there you go. After you learn the language of the drum, learn the language of both hands together, right hand, left hand, both hands together. Sing the sentence, play the sentence. Na, tin, tun, ga, gage, kat, tere kete tak tak, tere kete tak tak tak, tere kete tak, tere kete tak tak. So no matter how simple the sentences are, how complicated sentences are, you sing the sentence, you learn the language of the drum, learn the language of the right, left, both together. Let's say this is na, this is ga. Both together becomes dha. This is tin, this is ga. Both together becomes dhin, dhin. Dha, dhin, dhin, da, dha, dhin, dhin, da, dha, dhin, dhin, da, 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 dhin, dhin, da, dha. Or it can be very simple. Our basic 6 beats goes da, dhin, da, da, do, na, da, dhin, da, da, do, na, da, dhin, da, da, do, na. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da, dhin, da, da, do, na, da, dhin, da, da, do, na, da, dhin, da, da, do, na. Our basic 7 beats goes din, din, na, din, na, din, na, din, din, na, din, na, din, na. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Din, din, na, din, na, din, na, din, din, na, din, na, din, na. So like this, 6 has a name, 7 has a name, 8 has a name. If somebody says play dadra, that means can you play 6? Play rupa, can you play 7? So 8 has a name, 10 has a name, like that. You understand? So, okay, let me show you the basic 10. Basic 10 goes din na, din, din na, din na, din, din na. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Din na, din, din na, din na, din, din na. But I can also play, make it little funky at 10, all right? 1, 2. nice? You know what? I like it. This Nagadin, I created it, so I like it, you know. The other 10 is like Indian 10. Tinna, tin, tinna, tinna, tin, tinna. Shall I keep on talking a little more before he starts? So by playing with all these jazz guys and all that, a lot of times say, Miles will say, okay, I know. I don't want your this 10. I don't want your this 6. I don't want this funky. Play something funky. That was my, play some groove. And honestly, 1972, and this is 2010, all right? Most of you guys were not even born, I guess. He says, Badal, play some groove. I did not know what was groove. I did not know, honestly, I did not know what was groove. I just landed here in this country to do my PhD in statistics. I landed in this country to do my PhD in statistics, brought along this drum. My first thing was I played with John McLaughlin. Beautiful album, you should get that. My Goal is Beyond. Beautiful album. Absolutely. If I have done 100 CDs, if I pick 5 of them, that is one of them. Charlie Hayden, John, Billy Cobham, Ayarto, beautiful album. Dave Liebman on saxophone, beautiful. My Goal is Beyond. Please. And nowadays you may get it online also, all right? Then I start playing with Miles Davis. My PhD went out. And still I'm doing this. You know, I never finished my study. It's been 40 years, never finished my study. You know? So he would say, play some groove, and I did not know what is groove. You know, I really did not know. Then I would play something. He said, yeah. I definitely did not understand what is groove. Make it funky. I did not understand that. You know something? I still don't understand. Then I will start. This one story I tell everybody. Here is first session I am doing with Miles, and there's John McLaughlin right here with me, and right in front of me was Herbie Hancock, and on drum was Jack DeJohnette, and M. Tume on congo, Reggie Lucas on guitar, and who else? Carlos Garnett was on saxophone, and I'm doing the very first session on the corner session, you know. And Miles says, "You start," and I'm sitting on the floor, and he looks at me. He says, "You start," and I say, "What am I going to start?" You start. I don't know anything. You start. God, I don't know anything. You start. Then I still remember the groove I started. At that time, I didn't feel that groove. You know, I still remember. I started that groove. I'm going to do that groove right now. And then I started playing that groove. Herbie Hancock started playing. He said, "Yeah." We played for 1 or 2 minutes. It was fun. John joined. It was fun. Everybody joined. It was chaos. It was chaos. I couldn't hear myself, and I was thinking, what did I do? What I'm doing here? It was that chaos. I mean, if you guys have heard On the Corner, it was now, you know, anyway, after 20 years I heard it, I said, wow, it's just beautiful, you know. But at that moment, it was just chaos. It was big time chaos for me. So I'm going to start that groove and just play something, okay? So that the groove was like this. I'm singing it.
questions?
No question, no question. I can't answer.
You have questions?
Just
Yeah.
Was that an 8? Were you counting the 8 in that last?
eight, yeah.
So I met, I'm Kenny Wessel. I met Badal, boy, it was about 22, 23 years ago. We both got called by Ornette Coleman, the great saxophone player, at the same time to start playing in the band. And so I was very excited about meeting and working with Ornette. And then I walk into the rehearsal, and there's Badal Roy, who I was already a fan of because being a guitar player, I was a McLaughlin fan, and I knew My Goes Beyond, which is really a must-have album for all musicians. I think it's a great record. So Badal and I immediately hit it off, and we've been playing together. Well, we worked with Ornette for a number of years, and then we also started a trio together around that time. So I really, it's wonderful playing with Badal. He's just such a great groove. I mean, he says he doesn't know what a groove is, but he obviously knows. you feel it. So we thought about some music to play together, and one thing that would, I think, really be fun to play right away is this. It's just a Rajasthani folk tune from North India that we learned from a santur player, Tarun Bhattacharya. And I brought some charts. So this is one called "Remembering You." So this is just it's just a modal tune, D minor. There should be B flat. There should be I think I even have a bone concert. Yeah. You got one, Wes? Yeah. So one of the things, again, Badal mentioned that this is in D minor. You don't have your D drum, but you play your D drum. When you listen to a concert of Indian classical music, the way those pieces are structured usually, that you'll go to a concert and it might be one piece for an hour and 15 minutes, one performance of raga. And that'll be, and the tabla player will not have 4 drums. He'll have one low drum, the bayan, and the high tabla. And the high tabla will be in one key, and the whole piece will be in one key. One of the things about Indian music one element of Indian music there are a lot of similarities and points of intersection between Indian music and jazz that I've sort of been excited about from looking at this music for a number of years. But there are also some differences, and one of the things is that Indian music doesn't, or classical Indian music doesn't have any harmony. It's melody and rhythm. So you don't hear people change keys, you don't hear chord players, you don't hear the vertical movement that we have in sort of Western music. So consequently, and Indian music is a lot older than the sort of classical Western tradition. So consequently, the elements of melody and rhythm in Indian music are so developed. Badal was talking about these classical lines and all these. It's an incredible world if you're a percussionist or any kind of musician to check out what these classical guys are doing is a real blow your mind. And melodically too, the sort of the depth of the melodic language, the richness of them. To play in one mode for one scale, one raga for an hour and a half, you got to be pretty creative, pretty inventive. I mean, I run out of ideas after 5 minutes. So, but these guys. So this piece is just in concert D minor. And Badal will set up a groove. I think maybe the best thing to do is, well, obviously everybody should listen first because we don't have any part. We just have a lead sheet. I would maybe suggest maybe we could switch off. There's a little. We could. first 8 bars, first 16 bars, I'm sorry.
For 60.
No, I'm sorry, first 8 bars, yeah. And then second 8, maybe come in on the second 8, and you guys can both play the last. And in terms of comping, so if you're in D minor, if you see on the top of the page it says D minor, right? We've got D minor there. My feeling about playing in, sort of an open modal thing is that you really can, you don't have to think about traditional chords built in thirds, because that sort of can really lock you into some, can lock you in. I like to think about just harmonizing the mode. You know what I mean by that? So as opposed to thinking of spelling a chord from the bottom, D, F, A, C for a D minor, you can just think of, little two-note diads, any shape that you come up with that move around in that mode is gonna fit and gonna be in the right tonality. So that's one thing to think about. Just to maybe open up your playing as opposed to just playing D minor, D minor. It's going to get boring playing D minor for that long. Another thing you can do, if D minor, this tune is in the Dorian mode, so it's probably whatever raga is Dorian. I'm not sure what the name of that raga is, but if you're in D Dorian, what major key is that? What's that? C major key. So what are the diatonic chords in C major? C major, D minor, A minor, E minor, F major, G7, right? So all those chords against the D bass are going to work, right? So that's sort of a nice thing to do. You can sort of create movement against whatever the horns are doing. Okay, so maybe let's start. And one other quick thing I just want to mention about playing with tabla. That he is mic right now, but it is a quiet instrument. So I think the tendency, to play with the tabla is easy to drown out. So I think it's a very colorful sort of orchestral instrument. So if we can try to listen to the tabla, if you can't hear the tabla, you're playing too loud. So you can still keep the same energy and play with energy and intensity, but see if we can hear Badal. So once you set it up.
Okay, you want to do any kind of colors? No, just start.
Yeah, we can. There's something called alap. Do you want to explain alap?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
In an Indian classical performance, there's an alap, which is when they introduce the notes in the scale, in the raga. And that's usually out of time, and then the time comes in. It's a little bit more involved than that, but we can sort of maybe play a little bit rubato right now, and then Badal will bring in the groove, and tell me your name? Thomas. Bring in just whatever you hear into it. So what works nicely too is you know, I mean, I think in any ensemble, but especially when we're starting to get now, we got a lot of people. So you know, try to create different orchestrations. You know, if it's always, you know, two rhythm, two chord players and two percussionists and bass and a soloist, it just, even as the soloist changes, it gets monotonous. So, you know, start with just tabla and a solo, or start with just bass and the solo. You know, and just, you know, try to look at each other. This is not just about this. This could be, you know, playing a hard bop tune. I think it's, you know, when you have a larger band, you can really, that's one of the great things about having a bigger band. You can create all these textures. And if you just play the same textures all the time, even with the greatest soloists and the greatest players, it's going to have a certain effect on the audience and the players. You start getting. But you know, when Adam played with Badal at the beginning, it was like, oh, You know, just the two of them, it was, wow, it just created this whole new world, you know, and Thomas came in, you know. So it's, you just try to be aware of that, look at each other and play, communicate, you know, advanced things. So, yeah, that's great. You want to try, should we try Equinox? You guys know Equinox, the melody to Equinox? Because we were just thinking about a tune that people might know that Badal, we were fooling around this the other day, and Badal had a groove in 6 that might
Work,
you could play in 4 or in 6 with him. I want to tune up though. Can I tell me your name?
Austin.
Austin. Can you give me an A?
Sure.
Is that a bad one? We hear. Let me get a lower one again. I always joke that guitar players spend 3/4 of their lives tuning up and the other quarter being out of tune. Do you guys have charts in this? You don't have to play the exact phrasing of the melody. Oh, here, you got one. Here, oh, you got one. Okay. This is C. Oh, they're one. No, they're all. It's just a C part. You guys, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Even the band will work. You want to just try set up your groove and see how. Let's just try the bass line with your groove. Please, Jeff. I think he has to. What's your name again? Alex. Okay, Alex asked if we should be quiet. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Again, if you can't hear tabla, I was having trouble hearing tabla, and occasionally the sort of groove got a little funky, and it wasn't because you guys aren't grooving. It's because everyone couldn't hear each other. So that's just really just. I mean, if there's anything that I've learned from playing music is listen, listen, listen. So that's just if you can't hear someone in the band, then what are they doing up there? So I think there was a great great guitar player and educator said once, I heard him do a little clinic. He said, "You have to listen more than you play." So. Listening is microphone. You want to try?
You want to play something? This maybe it's too
Or I'm just going to just try to give them a lead. How long does this, Victor, go for it?
Another, I don't know, 15 or something.
Yeah, I think we just if you get it's just these guys are going to play with us tomorrow. So. Why don't you pull out La Lead? Just because I thought this might be a fun one to play. This is again another modal one. This is in 4, and I had a bone chart on this. The cool thing about this one is that again, as I was mentioning about Indian music, it says Steve's La Lead, I think it's called. It's written by a great Bansuri player. G, A flat, B flat, C sharp. So actually, this is sort of interesting. One of the things we have 3 chromatic notes next to each other, right? So we have 2 sets of 3 chromatic notes, which you don't usually see in a scale. I don't run into that much in Western scales. And then you have this major minor third in there. So it's got some really interesting. It's got some interesting characteristics and qualities to it. So it's sort of fun to play. Also, what is in there? If you check it out, there's an E flat pentatonic, an E flat blues scale in there. But then you have to add that those 5 notes. You got the D and the G. So this is also based. Unfortunately, Badal does not have his D drum.
It's okay.
Yeah. So this one it's based. Usually in Indian music, there's a drone of a root and a fifth below. This particular scale has a drone of a root and a fourth. You can sort of find anything you want in there. And the melody sort of, I don't know how to, again, harmonically, we're not going to, you can just, exactly what I was talking about before, you got to find your harmony here. As long as you're inside the mode, you're going to find some,
So it's different.
For now, we're going to play it just forget about the contour up and down. That's more than we're just going to use those notes and see what we find. This is how the scale. This is how we're going to phrase the melody.
What was the last note?
Last note?
Yeah.
A D.
G. Was it G?
I'm sorry, G. I'm sorry.
Last note was a G. What was your, what was Na?
You're talking to me?
Uh-huh.
Nah.
Right, what note was that?
A.
Yeah. So normally, if we
It would
had
have been D, right?
if we had brought all the stuff out from the vehicle, he would have a D drum for this. I mean,
I'll have a D drum tomorrow.
yeah, he never. I've never played with Badal, but he hasn't had One of the things about playing jazz with the tabla is, again, since we have harmony in our music and his drums are pitched, you sort of have to be, I mean, you can ignore it, but then that's not really why use a tabla player if he's going to have, you know, I mean, these drums are what they call indefinite pitch, right? You know, a drum set is not really a definite pitch. It's sort of, but these you can sing these notes.
So So which three are? What's not on those three drums? You have A.
I got an A, B, and a C.
So no note that he had was in our scale.
But he didn't play those other two drums. But yeah.
Yeah, but so that's unusual. We did that just because we're sort of pressed for time here. But again, if you're writing a piece, I've done a lot of writing for this this instrumentation, and you know, the classical guys will use the tabla drum as the root of the scale, and that's the only thing that they'll do. Like if they're playing in D, then the raga's in D, they'll play a D drum. But you know, Badal plays, when we played the tune in D, he played an A drum, and that's fine to play the fifth under the thing. Or you know, you could use another note. You could the drum could be the sixth or the fifth or the third or something. But again, if we're doing a tune like that, where there's a specific raga and we're staying inside that or scale, then you know, he would definitely normally have a drum that was in tune with that. Because that, you know, it just, you may not notice it, but you feel it in your body if it's right. I know you do. When he's not in tune, you can see it in his face, and you can feel it when it's in tune. It just sort of, it's like, you know, it's like a guitar.
I'm not smiling, you know. Play the bit meaning.
Sure. Do we have time to?
Man, we're 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Play.
There's a lot of English.
Huh?
English.
Okay.
Yeah. A-drum, right? You guys can actually look on. I think you have a chart of this. You want to follow this a little bit.
Would you mind sending?
A break. I think they made that chart. Ensemble. I want to thanks. That was very easy. You guys are great.
Would you mind?
I don't have
The chair should be there.
I know you've probably done enough gigs on trombone to know that you don't always get bass player parts, right? Yeah.